The movie begins with a man waking from a deep coma, but he cannot remember who he is or why he is here. A robotic voice asks him simple questions, but every answer comes out wrong. The voice tells him his memory will return slowly, and his muscles are not ready yet. He stumbles through the ship calling for help, but no one answers. A screen flashes the crew manifest. Every name is marked deceased but his. He finds a microscope and realizes he must be a scientist, but he cannot remember why. The screen confirms his identity, Dr. Ryland Grace, the last living person aboard. He tries to call Earth, but the transmission time is almost 12 years one way. He stares at a star outside the window, and a cold truth hits him: that is not our sun. He is 11 light-years from home, completely alone, but something sent him here, and the answer is hiding in his own forgotten mind. The story jumps back. A probe films tiny glowing creatures moving along a line of light between the sun and Venus. 2 years earlier, a woman named Irina Petrova spotted a streak of infrared light draining energy from the sun. A schoolteacher named Ryland Grace explains the crisis to his students. These creatures are eating the sun. They are dimming it slowly. But in 30 years the Earth will cool, crops will fail, and billions will starve. Grace tells his students the best minds are working on it, but his own life is falling apart. He drinks alone every morning, hiding from a career he destroyed with one unpopular idea. A woman named Eva Stratt walks into his classroom and says she needs his help. She found a paper he wrote years ago, claiming that life does not need water to exist. He was fired for that belief, and for calling the leading scholar in his field a staggering waste of carbon. But Stratt says she needs someone who refuses to back down when everyone else says he is wrong. She takes him to a secure lab to study the creatures from the sun, creatures that survive impossible heat. Grace asks if the sun is really dying. Stratt says yes, and everything she has done to prepare him is necessary. She locks him in a room with the sample and tells him not to rip his suit. He blasts the sample with every wavelength of light, and nothing happens until it does. It is a cell, a tiny alien cell. This is first contact with life from another star, but the specimen dies and Grace is devastated, until Stratt calls it great news. Now they can study what it is made of without it moving. The results come back: carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. The creature is made of water. Grace realizes the one original idea he ever had was wrong, but something else catches his attention. The creatures give off infrared light when they move, so much that it powers their propulsion. They eat the sun's energy and blast it out to travel. They go to Venus for its carbon dioxide. Stratt takes all his research and dismisses him, saying she has 347 other biologists mobilized. But Grace pushes back. He was being modest, and she needs people who think they are right when everyone else says they are wrong. Stratt offers him a place on the project. He says yes because he wants to help the world. She leaves him 3 samples and tells him to get to work. Grace studies the creatures, now called astrophage, with a partner named Carl. They ask a simple question: why would astrophage travel from the sun to Venus instead of Mercury? Venus has a carbon dioxide atmosphere. That might be what the creatures breathe. They build a box that mimics Venus and shine infrared light at the samples to test the idea. The astrophage moves toward the light. The Carl hypothesis is correct, but the samples escape the slide, and they nearly lose them in the dark room. They trap the samples in a box inside a box, and the experiment works. They collect all 3 samples, but then Carl calls with shocking news. There is a 4th sample. The astrophage has reproduced. They figured out how the creatures breed, and this changes everything. Stratt sends jets to collect them, and Grace swallows a pill that knocks him out. He wakes on a boat in the middle of the ocean, and Stratt asks if he can reproduce astrophage at scale. Grace describes a simple system: pipes, sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water, and the creatures multiply. Stratt brings him before a room of international scientists to share his method. He explains that when the samples sense carbon dioxide, they reproduce, and the room replicates his results. The doubling time is 8 days, and Stratt asks how long it would take to make 2 million kilograms. Grace has no clearance and no idea why she needs that much, but the answer will change his life forever. Stratt grants him top-secret clearance and reveals the name of the mission, Project Hail Mary. The sun is not the only star dying. Every star in the cluster is infected, except one. Tau Ceti, 11 light-years away, is uninfected despite being surrounded by dying stars. No one knows why, so they are building a ship to go there and find out. The astrophage itself is the fuel. It stores enormous energy, and 2 million kilograms could power a near-light-speed ship. But one mistake with that much astrophage could vaporize California, which is why Grace now lives on a boat in the ocean. The crew will travel to Tau Ceti, study the star, and send their findings back on probes, but there will not be enough fuel for a return trip. The astronauts will not come home. Strat calls it a long shot, the kind Americans call a Hail Mary. The alternative is to do nothing and watch every living thing on Earth go extinct. The crew will sleep in comas for most of the journey, and nothing about this is safe. They only need 3 people, a pilot, an engineer, and a scientist. Grace looks at photos of his crewmates, Commander Yao and Ilyukina, but his memory is still blank. He owes Yao 3 bags of vodka and wishes she was still alive, because he is failing alone. He promises the dead crew he will do his best, then opens the airlock and the story returns to the present. The ship arrives at Tau Ceti, and the engines cut off after a countdown. Grace panics because he is not a pilot, but the ship enters orbit on its own. He looks at the star through the viewport and sees something impossible. Tau Ceti has a Petrova line, the same energy drain, but the star is not dimming. Why? Something is different here, and the answer to Earth's survival is hiding in that difference. The ship detects something nearby, blip A, but Grace has no idea what that means. Another vessel approaches the Hail Mary, and Grace panics trying to flee. The ship warns him of erratic maneuvers as he scrambles to escape. The alien craft sends something toward his ship, and Grace does not know if it is a message or a weapon. A second object appears, blip B, moving slower and heading straight for him. He asks the ship to raise shields, but there are no shields on board. The object closes to 10 meters, and Grace braces for the end, but it does not hit him. The alien ship seems to think he is not very smart, and Grace realizes they are trying to communicate. The ship suggests a spacewalk, and Grace suits up despite his fear. He steps into the airlock, and the depressurization begins. He floats outside the Hail Mary for the first time, staring into the void. He fumbles with the equipment, trying to understand what the alien ship wants. His sensors detect xenon, a gas, but the readings make no sense. Back inside, he builds a centrifuge lab to simulate gravity and study the astrophage properly. The readings still show xenon, and nothing about this star system matches what he expected. But then the ship announces a foreign presence. Grace sees a creature, something alive, something far from home just like him. He whispers that he is a long way from home too, and the creature responds. A new blip appears, blip D, and the alien begins to move toward him. The creature mirrors Grace's movements, studying him just as he studies it. The alien signals him to return to his ship, and Grace obeys, confused but curious. He watches from outside, asking his ship what the creature is doing. The alien depressurizes something, a chamber, and the readings show breathable pressure and temperature. The alien has created an environment where Grace can survive without his suit. Grace steps inside and sees something completely new. He calls out and the alien responds. It has built him a ship out of something that looks like ramen. The creature made a single vessel, unsure how many humans there are. Grace comes face to face with the alien for the first time, and it startles him. The creature cannot see his face and seems to navigate by sound. It taps surfaces and points, and Grace realizes it uses echolocation to perceive the world. The alien gives him a gift, a device, but Grace worries it might be a trap. The creature wants him to remove his helmet, but Grace explains he needs oxygen to breathe. He shows the alien 2 rings of 8, and says the word oxygen, hoping it understands. The alien seems to grasp the concept, but Grace is terrified. If he is wrong, he is dead. Then Grace sees it. The alien ship has a Petrova line too. They are here for the same reason. Both their planets are dying from the same problem, and they both came to Tau Ceti to find the answer. Grace says they have to learn to communicate, and he asks if math is truly the universal language. He shows the alien numbers, and the creature responds with its own system. Grace brings out a clock, hoping they both understand time. He names the alien Rocky, because it looks like a giant rock and the name sticks. Grace discovers Rocky uses echolocation, so he provides surfaces for the alien to see. They develop gestures. Jazz hands means good. A shared language begins to form. Grace admits he has not been around anyone in a long time, and the feeling is mutual. They become Clark Bros, working together to bridge the gap between 2 worlds. Grace starts recording everything and they begin with numbers, 1, 2, 3. They learn each other's names, and a fragile partnership is born between the last hope of 2 dying planets. Rocky is a mechanic, Grace learns, working with a metal form of xenon that can build anything. Grace calls the material xenonite, and Rocky can shape it into tools, pipes, and structures instantly, but communication is still slow, and every word they share could be a misunderstanding that costs them everything. They work on the real question, Why is Tau Ceti not dimming when every other infected star is dying? Rocky's planet faces the same extinction, and his people sent him here alone, just like Grace. Grace studies the local ecosystem and finds something unexpected in the waters of Tau Ceti. A microbe exists here that consumes astrophage. It eats the very creature that is killing both their sons. This microbe could be the cure, but they need to cultivate it and send it back to their worlds. Rocky and Grace begin building the systems to grow the microbe together, combining human science with alien engineering. But the work is dangerous, and one mistake in the lab could destroy everything they have built. Rocky's ship suffers critical damage, and he is losing air faster than he can repair it. Grace risks everything to help, sharing his resources and his fuel with the alien who became his only friend. They push through the crisis together, but the numbers tell a hard truth. Grace does not have enough fuel to return to Earth. The mission was always one way, and now there is no escaping that fact. He could send the microbe back on a probe and die alone in space, or he could choose a different path. Rocky offers him a place on his ship, a chance to travel to the alien's home world and help save another planet. Grace realizes that saving Rocky's world is saving a world, and his life still has purpose. He loads the microbe samples and transfers everything he knows to Rocky's care. He sends a final probe toward Earth with all the data, knowing it will arrive long after everyone he loves is gone. But the data will save them, and that was always the point of Project Hail Mary. Grace boards Rocky's ship, leaving the Hail Mary behind, the ship that carried him to the farthest point a human has ever reached. Rocky welcomes him aboard, and for the first time in months, Grace is not alone. They set course for Rocky's home star, two survivors from dying worlds, carrying the cure that could save them both. Grace looks out at the stars and thinks of his students, of Strat, of everyone who believed this was impossible. He found the answer, and he found a friend, and together they will keep two worlds alive. The movie ends with Grace and Rocky traveling toward a new home, proof that even in the darkest void, connection is the one thing that saves us.